Deep inside the Kremlin's most secure channels, a timeline was set. A plan was finalized. It was meant to be invisible until the moment the first missile struck. But before the order could be given, Washington did something unprecedented. They didn't just intercept the signal. They broadcast it to the world. While the media focuses on the stalemate on the front lines, a far more dangerous reality has just unfolded in the information space. This wasn't a leak. It was a calculated detonation. And it has forced Vladimir Putin into a strategic corner he never saw coming. Because here is the reality of what just transpired. The United States intelligence apparatus saw the Russian Federation preparing a move of such magnitude, of such imminent danger, that maintaining silence was no longer a strategic option. So they broke protocol. They burned the intelligence to kill the operation. And now, Moscow faces a paralyzing choice. Do they proceed with a battle plan the entire world has already read, or do they back down and signal weakness to their enemies? Stay focused, because what we are analyzing today reveals how intelligence itself has transformed into the most lethal weapon in this war. Let's be absolutely clear about the nature of this event. Intelligence breaches happen. They are usually accidents, failures of operational security. But this is what high-level analysts call a deliberate exposure. It was a calculated decision to sacrifice secrecy in order to disrupt a mechanism already in motion. According to multiple high-level sources, the United States uncovered a coordinated Russian operation that transcends typical frontline maneuvers. We are not talking about trench warfare. We are talking about the choreography of a killing blow. The data reveals long-range missile batteries moving silently into launch corridors. Air defense systems creeping forward to create a kill box for Ukrainian aviation. Cyber warfare units, deep inside Russia, ramping up traffic to target critical infrastructure hundreds of miles from the zero line. Separately, these are just maneuvers. But when viewed through the lens of integrated intelligence, the pattern is unmistakable. It is the signature of a synchronized, multi-domain assault. And the terrifying factor was the timeline. Analysts believe the window for execution was not measured in weeks, but in days. That compressed timeline triggered emergency consultations inside the White House, the Pentagon, and NATO headquarters. It led to a decision that intelligence officials view as the nuclear option of espionage: expose the plan before it creates a new reality. This is the level of analysis that separates the signal from the noise. If you want to understand the mechanics of this conflict beyond the headlines, this is where you need to be. This operation wasn't about gaining territory inch by inch. It was about generating shock, confusion, and systemic paralysis. Intelligence officials indicate Russia had prepared an assault across land, air, and cyberspace, designed to hit with perfect simultaneity. The goal was to overwhelm Ukrainian defenses not through mass, but through complexity. Here is the operational doctrine. Phase 1. Saturation missile strikes designed to force Ukrainian air defense radars to light up and reveal their locations. Phase 2. While those eyes are fixed on the sky, cyber operators go dark on the power grids and command networks, severing the link between leadership and the front. Phase 3. Russian aerospace forces flood the zone, exploiting the chaos to test NATO's reaction times while Ukrainian forces scramble to re-establish coordination. It is a playbook refined over a decade of wargames. A master key designed to unlock defenses by overwhelming the senses. But a master key only works if the lock hasn't been changed. And this is where the American strategy becomes brilliant in its ruthlessness. By putting the battle plan on the front page, Washington destroyed the one variable Russia required for success: surprise. When an adversary operates in the shadows, they control the tempo. They control the narrative. But the moment you drag them into the light, that control evaporates. As one senior official noted, a secret attack is destabilizing, but an exposed attack is preventable. That distinction is the entire ballgame. The reaction was instantaneous. Across European capitals, alert levels spiked. But in Kiev, there was no panic. There was only calibration. Satellite reconnaissance confirms that Ukrainian assets have already shifted. Air defense bubbles have expanded to cover the identified corridors. Surveillance patterns have rotated to blind spots. Cyber defense units have moved to full operational readiness. These are not the frantic movements of an army caught off guard. They are the disciplined adjustments of a force that knows exactly what is coming. They are setting a trap on the very ground Russia intended to seize. NATO is moving with equal deliberation. Intelligence sharing has intensified to real-time speeds. Monitoring along the eastern flank has tripled. The alliance is walking a razor's edge, deterring Russia without providing the spark for a wider escalation. Meanwhile, inside Russia, the public response has been predictable. State media dismisses it as Western hysteria. The Kremlin accuses the US of fear-mongering. But the signal's intelligence tells a radically different story. Since the leak, Russian military channels have reportedly gone into a frenzy of reconfiguration. Communication protocols have been rewritten. Unit movement schedules have been scrapped. These are the symptoms of a command structure that knows it has been compromised. When a military realizes its playbook is in the enemy's hands, confidence is replaced by paranoia. This brings us to the critical question: does exposing intelligence prevent war, or does it accelerate it? Here is the strategic dilemma Vladimir Putin is facing right now. It is a paradox with no clean exit. Consider option A: he orders the attack to proceed as planned. But now, he walks into a prepared defense. He risks a catastrophic tactical failure while the whole world watches in real time. Failure, under the spotlight, is not just a setback. It is a humiliation. Then consider option B: he aborts the operation. He pulls back. But in doing so, he signals weakness. He proves to his generals and his adversaries that Western intelligence has a veto power over his military decisions. He shatters the myth of his own invincibility. Neither option is safe. Both carry consequences that extend far beyond the battlefield. For a leader who has built his entire regime on the perception of strategic control and calculated unpredictability, being exposed like this is destabilizing. Putin has long relied on ambiguity to maintain leverage. An exposed plan undermines that narrative. It forces explanations. It invites scrutiny. It limits flexibility. As one analyst phrased it, when surprise disappears, pressure replaces confidence. And pressure is exactly what is crushing the Russian command structure at this moment. This is what intelligence warfare looks like in 2024. You don't just gather information, you weaponize it. You use it to shape the battlefield before a single shot is fired. This moment is significant because it strips away the gray zone Russia loves to operate in. Launch a strike, then deny it. Threaten escalation, then claim provocation. Use silence to maintain an advantage. This leak destroys that ambiguity. It puts Russia's intentions on full display and forces accountability before action. Intelligence is no longer just a tool for decision-making behind closed doors. It has become an instrument of deterrence. U.S. officials insist this risk was calculated. Leaks are dangerous. They reveal methods. They burn sources. But the greater risk was silence. Allowing a major escalation to unfold without warning could have spiraled into a crisis with no off-ramp. By pulling the trigger on this information, Washington believes it has reduced the likelihood of miscalculation, even if it has spiked short-term tension. This is the new battlefield. It is not just tanks and artillery, it is information exposure and psychological pressure. And tonight, Russia is learning what it feels like to fight on that battlefield without the shield of secrecy. So, where does this go from here? Intelligence agencies across Europe are monitoring Russian movements in real time. Satellites remain locked on key regions. Cyber teams are hunting. The leak has accelerated the clock, but it has also narrowed Russia's options. What happens next depends entirely on how Moscow responds to being undressed on the world stage. Do they double down and push forward despite the scrutiny? Or do they pull back, recalibrate, and wait for the world's attention to drift elsewhere? History shows that what happens in the space between warning and action often determines the course of a war. And tonight, we are living in that space. This is no longer just a question of Russian capability. It is a test of whether exposure can prevent escalation, whether intelligence can deter action, and whether transparency can buy time in a conflict defined by risk. One thing is undeniable. The leak has changed the calculus. It has shifted the balance from surprise to exposure, from ambiguity to accountability. Whether Russia acts or pauses, the world now knows that its next move will not go unseen. Washington just proved that when you expose a plan before it unfolds, you force your opponent to fight under the worst possible conditions, total scrutiny. And for Vladimir Putin, a leader who has spent decades operating in shadows, controlling narratives, and projecting invincibility, that scrutiny is the most dangerous threat of all. Because when the myth of control cracks, the foundation of power begins to crumble. This is the kind of strategic breakdown that goes beyond the 30-second sound bites. If you require this level of analysis every single day, you know what to do. We cover the stories that shape the world, the way they need to be covered. We will continue to monitor the situation as NATO calibrates its response strategy. I'll see you there.